Hello guys, and welcome to What to Do review. This week's game of the week for week commencing 17th of July 2023 is ExoPrimal. Why ExoPrimal? Because it was a shiny new Game Pass drop, honestly, and I was in the mood for a pick up and play game that required little thought. I just wanted to shoot things and have a little bit of fun, so I thought I'd give this one a whirl. And spoiler alert, I've been pleasantly surprised, so let's have a quick look over the game and see what it's got to offer us. So, minor annoyance just before we get into the game, and that was the requirement for me to set up a Capcom account and then link that account to my Xbox account. Wasn't a fan of that. I would rather them just do that kind of stuff for me through Xbox Live directly, some kind of button or something. It only took 5 minutes on the phone, but it was a bit of an annoyance nonetheless, so would rather they try and find a different way of doing that kind of thing in the future, to be honest. Okay, on to the good stuff. So once I finally got past the initial tutorials, I was into the game, and I've got to say I was pleasantly surprised. Game lovely and responsive. You know, although the graphics aren't earth-shattering, they're certainly decent. And when you combine it with the guitar-based music that helps keep the action ticking along, all comes together to produce an outcome or a video game that honestly is quite simply just fun, which is, what we're all here for, right? Now, don't get me wrong, guys, the graphics certainly aren't bad here. There is a little bit of popping here and there, and some of the levels are a bit basic in terms of the design. You may also notice a bit of frame rate slowdown on the dinosaurs themselves, and some of the reflections can border on the basic a little bit, but I feel this was a necessary evil to keep the frame rate up. In fairness, I feel like Capcom made the right sacrifices here, in that they've made a game that can be a treat on the eyes when it's in full swing with explosions, dinosaurs flying around all over the place, and that comes together with some nice lighting and a frame rate essentially that felt consistent and nice with no hiccup throughout. Now, I haven't got any kind of frame rate counter myself, and I do note that Digital Foundry did an analysis that revealed frame rate dips into the low 50s in places, but I've got to be honest, during my playtime with the game myself, I never felt this. The game felt consistent and smooth throughout all my gameplay sessions, and as you can see with the footage that I've got playing in the background here, there's a lot going on. I mean, it gets pretty crazy, and I can typically feel a frame rate drop here and there, so I don't know if I got lucky or if it gets worse as the game progresses, but I've got to be honest, never impacted my enjoyment of the game at all. Really nice stuff. Now, the gameplay is pretty much what you'd expect from an online multiplayer horde type game. You know, you kill waves of enemies coming at you, you level up, you upgrade your character, rinse and repeat. Good news is the gameplay is actually incredibly fun. The act of blowing up a pack of dinosaurs with my grenade honestly is still satisfying me to this point, 8 hours in. I love it. And the upgrades give you a noticeable improvement in your mech's abilities. Gameplay modes, as far as I've seen so far, they involve a first stage to begin with, where you and your teammates, a squad of 4 people essentially, will go up against another 4 players. Now, during the first stage, what happens is you don't actually encounter the enemy team, but at the end of each wave, the AI commentator, so each wave of dinosaurs, the AI commentator will let you know if you're completing each wave slower or faster than the other team. Now, if you complete the waves too far behind the enemy team, it does result in a game over from what I can see. If you both finish relatively close to one another, then you enter a stage 2 of the game where all players are loaded into a map with an objective to complete. So this is typically something along the lines of staying close to a flag, or what the game refers to as a key, that only moves if you stay close to it, and it'll move along a trail to an end location, at which point you have to hold it there for a certain amount of time to gain essentially the points that you need in order to win the game. This game type sees the opponent team also doing the same thing, and the 2 kind of flags or keys arrive at the same end point, at which point there's kind of a battle between the 2 sets of players to control the space, but also try and damage the opponent's keys, which stops the other team from scoring. Spawn times are a real penalty in this game. This can lead to some pretty good encounters, pretty decent battles between the 2 teams. Another type of example of this is another example of the stage 2 type is where each team has to control one of 3 flags. Well, there's 3 flags on a map, so it's kind of like Domination in Call of Duty, and you have to hold each of those points to score. And during both modes, there'll be periods where dinosaurs are spawning in, then there'll be periods where it's just player versus player in this stage 2 mode. Familiar systems that we've all played before, but a good fun loop that works well for this kind of game, I think. Now, one of the other components to this stage 2 player versus player element of the game is the Dominator. So the Dominator is one of the larger scale dinosaurs, and it's typically awarded to the team that's tracking behind the other team in order to try and balance things up, or at least that's what I've noticed. Now, when you pick up this icon, you can, choose to initiate that dinosaur as soon as you see fit, and when you do so, it'll spawn you into the enemy's camp. This will give you a number of benefits. It will slow the enemy team down because it will allow you to attack them directly, or in the case of the footage that I'm showing here, it's actually allowing me to break their key, which is currently travelling along the same path for us to meet in the middle, based on the footage that we just looked at a few minutes ago. Now, when you break the key, it stops the key from moving, so this gives you a bit of a leg up in the heat of battle and allows you to catch up to the team that is slightly ahead. It can turn the tide quite nicely if you use it properly, but I've got to be honest, I didn't really enjoy playing as the dinosaur too much. I felt them to be quite difficult to control, and I much preferred the feel of being in a mech and shooting things rather than using the dinosaur. But it is a tool available for the team, and in the right hands, I suspect someone would be able to use this to pretty devastating effect. Now, going back to the mechs for a moment, there are a number of different classes for you to be able to pick from here. You've got the long-range soldier type through to a tank-like heavy hitter. These guys can shield the team from waves of dinosaurs. They've also got quite heavy hitting attacks, and then you've got the support classes that kind of run around and provide health to the team, various buffs, and also good for crowd control from what I can gather. Up to this point, I've been playing as the character that you start with, partly because he's highlighted as a good all-rounder, but also partly because, well, the main reason being that my play style I prefer to shoot at things in a relentless Gears of War type fashion, and also I can't get enough of those grenades, man. They're awesome. No doubt as I continue to play, I'll start to experiment with the other classes, but for now I'm just having a lot of fun where I am with the standard soldier type, so I'm staying where I am. Now, what I would say is, with this game, I'd give it more than a couple of hours. What I did notice is, after the first 2 to 3 hours, I did start to fear the worst with this game. It started to feel a little bit samey, same levels, same variety in dinosaur count, and no real kind of progression or elevation in the gameplay. The constant load area with the AI bot giving you what seems to be, somewhere between 3 to 5 different intros as you load into the game, that does get quite old quite quickly. However, what I would say is, after around about the 3-hour mark, I hit this point in the story where things seem to ramp up, and at that point I did start to see a few new maps and a bit more variety in the gameplay. The horde started to get more intense in terms of the number of dinosaurs, the variety of dinosaurs, and just the overall amount of action on screen. So I would recommend giving this game probably at least 4 or 5 hours. I'd say at that point you'll know whether or not it's something you want to continue to play, or if it's something that you feel like you want to move on from. Now, speaking of the story, I mean, this isn't really the reason why I'm playing this myself. The hook for me, honestly, is just unleashing a load of ammo at a load of dinosaurs and watching them fly all over the place. But if you are interested in that kind of stuff, I would say it's mildly entertaining. It's a bit of nonsense, really. It's about an AI that's stranded a load of Marines on an island where they played in some kind of squad-based Hunger Game-esque type battle for survival. Or at least that's what I think's going on. I mean, at least, honestly, I'm only partially paying attention to it. If you are interested in this kind of stuff, then the initial story and intro goes with the tutorial at the start, and then the game unlocks a series of cutscenes for you at various points as you progress through a number of battles. This is always made quite clear to you on your home screen, in between launching into multiplayer games. And finally, before we move on to summarising what I think of this game, we'll just have a quick look over Cloud. So as you can see here, this is footage from me attempting to play the game through xCloud on my Logitech G-Cloud. As you can see here, really, it's a no-go. I had difficulty aiming. and honestly it just wasn't a fun time. I felt like I was fighting against the controls all the way. So definitely a no from me in terms of xCloud. In terms of local streaming, I'd say it was just about playable at a pinch. You can get by, you know, if you're looking for some casual game time, maybe looking to grind out some additional XP. But honestly, even so, for this type of game, I'd say it's not really suited to, you know, any kind of streaming type solution. You are best off playing locally, and that's certainly where I had the most fun. Okay, guys, so my final thoughts on ExoPrimal. Well, honestly, quite frankly, it's fun. You know, it's a perfect Game Pass game. Honestly, do you know, in the world where dropping £70 on a game feels like a bit of a commitment, really, a bit of a big decision. In other words, you know, when you do that kind of thing, you better enjoy the game or else. With this Game Pass game, you know, I picked it up at a whim, really, for the weekend, and you know, totally enjoyed it. So much so that I've continued playing it this week, and I'll probably make it my weekend game this week as well. What the longevity of the game looks like is yet to be seen. Like I say, I've only played, you know, around about 8, maybe 10 hours tops on this. So I guess it depends what kind of game you are, right? If you love these live service kind of shooter games, maybe you'll find some legs in it. Maybe you'll get bored of it once you start getting fatigued with the maps and the gameplay loop. Possibly a game that will continue over time. I do believe Capcom have got plans to continue to add to this, so it could be one for the long haul for a bit of casual gameplay when you're in the mood. But honestly, lots of fun, good graphics, nice and smooth, entertaining all around, really. Honestly, I'd say if you've got a bit of time free at the weekend, you've got a Game Pass sub especially, give this one a whirl. And if you're not a Game Pass subscriber, then that does make things a little bit more tricky, I guess, at that point, really. You're just looking to do a bit of research, watching videos, hopefully like this one, to help, you know, make your mind up whether or not you think this is going to be a game that's going to be worthy of your hard-earned money. Okay, guys, that's it. I hope this overview has given you some idea as to whether or not this is a game you want to play, or it's been helpful in some way, shape, or form. Thanks so much for watching the video. Have a great day, week, year, life, and catch you on the next one.